Hello and welcome back for Chapter 3 of Arthur, an Actuarial Odyssey, an original novel by me. I want to begin this week, however, welcoming two new sponsors. We are especially proud to be building our sponsorship, but I've had them prepare me some copy in that I am not any kind of a professional when it comes to advertising things of this importance. Today, I would like to welcome two new sponsors, beginning with Billy's Pigeon Stew. When the last sandwiches are gone, you can always make do with Billy's Pigeon Stew. Might not have hit that last one. Billy's Pigeon Stew. Visit Billy's website today to read their reviews. For example, Thackeray Phelps from Haines, Delaware writes, "Ooh-wee!" We also want to welcome our second sponsor, Dante's Funeral Home and Crematorium. When God's plans have you heading south after burial, begin your journey to hell's fire at Dante's Funeral Home and Crematorium. Visit their website for many posthumous reviews, such as, again, Thackeray Phelps from Haines, Delaware. "I could not believe that someone like me, who was surely headed straight to hell, could get such a beautiful service, leaving all my mourners with smiles on their faces." Reserve your service today, and Dante will throw in free professional mourners to provide just the right level of detached emotional sentiment for a person of your ilk. Well, as I say, it's exciting news around here when we get new sponsors, and certainly want to welcome anyone who wants to join our list of fine establishments. Just get in touch with our offices. We pick up Chapter 3. You'll recall that in Chapter 1, Arthur faced an existential crisis. He did not know why he existed. He did not know the meaning or purpose of life. And as such, because he was a life insurance salesperson, this greatly hindered his ability to continue in the business. Chapter 2, he began a journey, he began an odyssey, he began a quest. His goal was to discover the actual meaning and purpose of life, and he began, some could say quite ingeniously, with the thought that those things that are most universal to human existence, those things that are common to all societies, peoples around the world, could give a hint into his hidden secret. So he began with human waste elimination, and that led him inevitably to money, means of exchange. How was it that human waste elimination became a source of profit and class warfare? We'll move to Chapter 3 now to pick up the story. Butch was eating lunch with another client and invited Arthur to join them. The client was a hefty Caucasian man in his late 40s. His midday nourishment consisted of a steak and cheese sandwich with a side order of fries and a large Pepsi. He and Arthur exchanged niceties, with much of the sandwich jammed between his piston-like jaws. Butch's office, modestly adorned, sensibly paneled, and ostentatiously laden with awards and citations, reflected a life of noteworthy achievement and brazen self-confidence. It sat on the 14th floor of the Dunmore Building, an office complex dedicated to Philip A. Dunmore, noted philanthropist and humanitarian, who, after a lifetime of pioneering success in the garment industry, had donated his entire life savings to an orphanage in rural Burma. In keeping with the spirit of giving embodied in Dunmore's selfless act of charity, and following Butch's advice, the Burmese orphan children had used the money to construct the sprawling Dunmore office complex. By means of a fairly straightforward multiplier effect, as was explained to the young orphans by caring Peace Corps volunteers, the children hoped to have the money trickle back down to them by contributing to a robust world economy, and thus benefiting one and all. Butch and Arthur were old college buddies who, life, as it so often does, had sent on separate journeys. Arthur dropped out of college and inherited his father's city-wide chain of male stripper clubs, and Butch went on to earn a degree in television VCR repair from a mail-order trade school before completing his MBA. Arthur eventually closed the stripper clubs after he was condemned to hell by some local ministers. This followed an incident in which he was badly misquoted in a local newspaper as suggesting that the Antichrist was merely a victim of bad press. The issue had first arisen in the question and answer period following a luncheon address to the Chamber of Commerce. The full context of Arthur's response clearly reveals him to have said that while he in no way could condone the actions of the Antichrist, he felt it would be extremely difficult for the Antichrist to get a fair public hearing given these very strong anti-Antichrist public sentiment. Arthur had since embarked upon his, at times, unconventional lifestyle, surviving on the vast wealth generated from those clubs. He had first met Butch in, of all places, the university cafeteria. Arthur was having the Salisbury steak and sat alone. Butch, still on line and leaning toward the veal, caught sight of Arthur from across the crowded lunchroom. He asked if he could join Arthur, who, with an inviting, "It's a free country," offered Butch a seat. Butch had indeed chosen the veal, and Arthur, eyeing his green beans, felt a certain comfort with this new stranger in his life. Butch began with that awkward, get-to-know-you kind of small talk, asking if Arthur was a new student. Arthur took a contemplatively long swallow of his chocolate milk before confirming Butch's suspicions. "So, what are you thinking of majoring in?" Butch asked. "Dunno. I'm keeping my options open, you know what I mean?" "Oh, yes, came back a thoroughly confused Butch. "So, where are you from?" "Here and there." "I see. And where'd you grow up?" Arthur looked up from his tray, gazed past Butch with a vacant stare, and asked, "Can any of us really say we've grown up?" capturing that budding metaphysical curiosity that decades later would lead him to Butch's office, seated beside an engorged, middle-aged Caucasian man in search of the meaning and purpose of life. "Guess you got a point," Butch responded. "Well, hey, look at the time. Gonna be late. Well, see you around, huh?" "Right." And with that, though they would not meet again for another 2 years, A friendship had been forged that would last a lifetime. So what can I do for you, Art? Arthur thought carefully before beginning. How to explain his mission, how to condense his mind's query into some easily digestible nugget, how to have Butch enter his own realm of metaphysical wonder. He decided to begin with his broad project and get Butch's sense of how best to proceed. He explained how he had recently dedicated his life to finding the meaning and purpose of life so that he could more effectively sell life insurance for it. He described his earlier efforts and how his searching had sent him on a sojourn into the dark world of human waste elimination. Finally, he explained, his searching had brought him here to investigate what appeared to be the true object of human waste elimination, profit, the big payoff. Thus, to continue his search for the meaning and purpose of life, down near its very roots, he had to find out what this thing called money was all about. Butch had his secretary hold all calls. Let me get this straight, Butch mused. You think money is the basis for the meaning and purpose of life? Not precisely. Let's just say I'm following a trail. When I began, I had a sense that human waste elimination was somehow tied to the meaning and purpose of life. I see, Butch said, somewhat incredulously. Because it's universal, Butch. Everybody does it, the world over. Oh, sure, I get it. So I figure find out what's behind this universal human activity, and I'd be halfway home. Sure, responded Butch. So I found it. It's money. Now I gotta find out what's behind money. What's the next link in the chain? Arthur explained. Got it. So, give it to me straight, Butch. I'm ready to take this baby wherever it sails. What's with this thing? Money. Money. Butch thought to himself. Right. Let's see. You see, the thing, this money, it's not really such an easy thing to just, talk about straight out like you're suggesting. Sounds even more complex than I thought, said Arthur. You'd better begin with the basics. All right, let's see. You want to know what money is. Well, it's like this. Money is a bunch of pieces of paper that the government prints up so we can buy stuff. I see. And where does the government get it? Well, they sort of start out with a set amount and then give it out to people. How do they figure out how much to give people? Well, it depends, how much you make at work, or how much you get from a dead relative, or if you win the lottery, stuff like that. And then we take the money and we give it to other people to buy stuff, Arthur added. That's about it. So all these people making money off of human waste do it so they can buy more stuff, Arthur mused. Something like that, said Butch. Arthur was trying to make things make sense in his head. What he had so far was that there was this group of human waste industrialists who, taking advantage of a basic human proclivity, were helping people to eliminate their waste so that they could get money so that they could buy stuff. Butch assured Arthur that this was a completely rational and socially responsible thing to do. But how much stuff do they need precisely? Arthur continued. That's a toughie. Some folks, they settle for a few things. Others, they keep collecting more and more to buy more and more stuff. But in the larger scheme of things, they only go after money so they can get a hold of more stuff, said Arthur. They don't really need the money, which is just useless pieces of paper. So what happens when one person collects all the stuff there is to buy? Arthur wondered. Don't talk crazy. It's not possible. There's too much stuff, explained Butch. You gotta open up your mind, Butch. Just imagine it. What happens then? There's no more reason to get more money. They've got everything already. Hey, maybe that's it. That's the meaning and purpose of life. To collect as much stuff as you can to break from your need for money. But nobody can break from their need for money, Butch insisted. Ah, Arthur proclaimed. It's a vicious circle. The more you collect to free yourself of dependency on money, the more dependent you become. That's deep. I like it. I think we're getting somewhere. But there must be a way to break the cycle. The meaning and purpose of life must be tied up in making as much money as you can until you break the cycle. What would be the point? Butch responded. Let's say you collected all the stuff in the world there is to buy, so you don't need any more money. In the end, we're all dead anyway. What's all that money gonna buy you? I think I see where you're going with this, Arthur rejoined. I like it. Play up the death angle. You might have something there. Death, it's universal, just like human waste elimination. Arthur kicked himself. How could he have missed the connection? It was only natural. The meaning and purpose of life was not to be found in the human elimination of waste, nor in the natural result of the human elimination of waste, money. The meaning and purpose of life could only be found in its contrary form, death. To understand how to succeed in the life insurance industry, Arthur had first to confront and understand its very antithesis, the death industry. His mission had taken a most provocative turn, and so Arthur rushed off to question death. As luck would have it, the 153rd Annual National Conference of Morticians was being held at the city's convention center that very weekend. There, within the somber den of dedicated peddlers of bereavement, Arthur hoped to land his next lead. And that's where we'll find him next week in Chapter 4. Again, we invite you to seek out more knowledge to Arthur, an Actuarial Odyssey, available on Amazon and other fine purveyors of great literature. See you then.